Hello, hello. Topic of today's Lovetarian Way podcast is how to exude natural charisma on the center stage of your life. I have a wonderful, accomplished guest with me today. She is a public speaker, she is a best-selling author, and a wonderful aligned entrepreneuress, Connie-Lee Bennett. Welcome.
Thank you so much. What an amazing welcome. I feel warm and welcomed already. So I'm excited. Thank you for
Please
having me on
tell
the
us.
show.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. And I would like to ask you, please tell us a little bit about who you are. I mean, you're very accomplished, but maybe some of our viewers don't know you. So just a short introduction so we know why. How did you go into public speaking, or why are you passionate about it?
It's really a great question, and I love that question. Who are you? Because it's interesting, you ask not what do I do, but who? Who is the real Connie? And this is really one of the key points that we're going to be asking everyone today is, okay, well, who is the real you? Because if you don't know who the real you is, then you can't exude anything. You can't exude charisma. You can't stand on the center stage of your life. So thank you for asking that question. Who is the real Connie? Well, I think I'm someone who's always evolving, so much so that last last year after COVID, we were just talking, Natalia, about COVID, and I call it COVID, like the time of COVID. I was in my apartment in Paris and I thought, I'm done with this. I need to escape. I need to leave Paris. And I left Paris and I ended up spending a month in Greece. Why not? For whatever reason, and I had the most amazing time. I stayed in this beautiful tiny village where the brother's sister owned the restaurant, and then their uncle owned, the shop, and everyone in the family owned everything in the village. So it was really beautiful, and it was really so cute and rustic, and it started reminding me of the simplicity of life because I was really so caught up in this energy outside of myself. Sometimes, if you, I mean, you feel it as well. I know you do. We speak about this often. We're often being pulled by all these different energies, and this COVID time, I mean, there's energies everywhere. So it was nice for me just to change environment, to reflect, to start asking that question again. Well, who is the real Connie? And, I had amazing time. And my mom was like, okay, you're having an amazing time. I want to join you. So I was like, okay, mom, join me. So my mom joined me and we had a great time bonding as mother and daughter. And we would walk up and down from the village to the sea every day. And Natalia, as you know, I'm South African. I was born in Zimbabwe, raised in South Africa. I spent 10 years in London, went to France for 7 years, and then I just recently moved back to London. But I say that because, we were walking up from the beach one day and I saw this hotel called Belito. Now, Belito is the name of a town in South Africa. So my mom and I were like, I wonder if the guy who owns this is South African. So anyway, we looked to the side, we saw that there was a sign at the door that said, if you need me, I'm at the pool bar. So what better words of enticement does anyone need other than pool and bar, right? So we went around side, we met this guy at the pool bar. He opened up his mouth and this heavy South African accent came out. And it reconnected me with this feeling of groundedness and my roots in Africa. And we ended up having the best night. When you have such a great time that you're laughing, you have tears coming down your cheeks, and your stomach hurts so much. And I was laughing and I was just being the real me. And I thought to myself, when was the last time that I've actually felt this free to be the real me? And I had to think about it. It had been more than 7 years.
Wow.
When I moved to Paris, I've got like 25 years of experience in psychology. I was teaching psychology in London, moved to Paris, decided to start my own company. But when you move to another country, you resonate with this, from one culture to another culture, and you've got nothing familiar to hold on to, you have two choices. You either look at, well, what is the new form of expression of the real me in this situation, or you muddle the existing energy of the people around you. And as much as I've tried to in the first 6 years to sort of be the real me, we sometimes need to lose ourselves to find ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So although I had amazing experiences, I founded my company. I actually created 3 companies in the 7 years that I was here. I eventually ended up being super, super blessed to, have my own radio show for a couple of years. I spoke on stages in maybe 20 different countries around the world through the amazing organization Global Women. It was fantastic. I was their director for a couple of years and recently published my first solo book, although I co-authored a few. So a lot of recognition has happened, but I always felt like there was something missing. There was a disconnect because I almost felt like I was pretending to be a businesswoman. I was like, okay, so yes, I've written a book. Yes, I'm on stage. I've been on TV, and I just felt like, okay, but is that the real expression of me?
Mm-hmm.
And recently I realized that we express ourselves, who the real us is just choosing to consciously, every moment of every day, be in awareness of the form of our expression, be okay with the form of your expression because you're doing the very best that you know how, and reflecting and being curious about what that expression is teaching you. And I realized that my time in Paris was about teaching me how to reconnect with my divine flow, who the real Connie is. Because yes, I was still me, but there were parts of me that I had slowly started to forget.
Mm-hmm.
So who's the real Connie? Well, she's discovering herself every day and she's okay with that. She's curious now. She wants to learn how she can fully express all of who she is. Her soul's purpose is to live in the vibration of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And how I got onto public speaking, which was your original question, was, I was doing leadership coaching for a while. And one of my friends said to me, but Connie, why don't you do public speaking? Because you're so great at it.
Mm-hmm.
And people had been telling me this for 3 years, but I wasn't ready to hear it. But in that moment, I was ready to hear it. And I thought, yeah, this is it. This is what I know my next cycle is. So it's also that space of curiosity and knowing that actually, with change, you have to change. In order
Mm-hmm.
to be the real you, you have to change.
Yeah.
So it evolved with each of my experiences. I found a new expression of me, a more amplified expression of me. So I kind of evolved into public speaking. And the more I did it, the more I experienced it, the more it became something familiar to me, the more I loved it. And this
Mm-hmm.
is the energy that I work with people with now, is to connect them with that soul's purpose so they can connect with what their divine flow is. Because if you're copying somebody else's divine flow, you can never stand on the center stage of your life.
Oh, beautiful. Hold on for a second because somebody says that sometimes you are frozen. I don't experience that. I hear a little bit breakage in the sound from your end, but you have a good connection, Connie, right? Not a problem on your end.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, maybe it's just
Maybe it's the
on
universe doing pauses for the
exactly.
audience to think.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I receive it quite all right. So hopefully, when you're watching replay, Annemiek, it will be fine then because it works for us just great. So thank you
Fingers
for that.
crossed.
Yes, and hello, ladies that you're here. Somebody says they're also member of Global Women. Okay, cool
Oh,
organization.
fantastic.
Great. So yeah, connecting with your own authentic soul, with your soul. You cannot copy anybody, because once you do, everything goes to, right? That's the key. So how would a person do that if they're not familiar, if they don't even know what it means to be authentic self? How would you advise them to, what would they start with even? Do you know? Some people actually just don't even know where to start.
That's a super, super good question, which is, okay, so how do you even know? And what came to me as you said that was something very simple, which is the 0 to 10, what's it? Likert scale, right?
Mm-hmm.
10 is when you're feeling super, super light, and 0 is when you're feeling very, very heavy. So let's say, for example, how do you know if you're expressing yourself as your authentic self? You won't know until you experience it. Okay. So yes, we can imagine what our future self. There's two parts to this conversation. Firstly, yes, connecting with the future vision of ourselves and pulling, let that vision pull us forward. But I'm talking about like in this present moment living. And I'm having this conversation with you and I'm thinking to myself, okay, so Connie, am I being my authentic self? And that's a great question. You start with a question and then you check in with your body. And you look at, okay, how heavy is my body feeling? How light is my body feeling in terms of energy? Am I feeling stress, maybe heaviness, anxiety, pressure, or am I feeling peace, freedom, joy? And as I'm asking myself this question, I can feel that my energy is grounding, my tone of voice is changing, my energy is changing because I'm grounding myself and I'm connecting more with my authentic self. So the first step, I would say, if we want to make a note of this is really good. I'm making a note for myself. Number one, ask the question. Ask the quality question because then you're open to receiving that answer. Number two, check in with how you're feeling. What are those emotions? And between 0 and 10, 10 is super, super high emotions like joy, passion, excitement, stuff like that, enlightenment. Where are you on that continuum scale? And I would say anything from 5 or above, 6 or above is fine because life is just about experiencing that. And then the third thing would be to be okay. Just be okay with your expression. Whether it's right or wrong or good or bad, or it's your expression in that moment and it's still the authentic you. It's still a part of you that wants to be recognized, wants to be heard. And if we're not letting that part of us express ourselves, then also we're denying our authentic self. So it's that balance. If we're pushing down some of those aspects, then we're not going to own the room because we're going to walk into a room and we're not going to exude charisma at all because we're pretending to push down rather than just walking in and being okay. No, you're human. You're a spiritual being having a human experience. So yes, the spirit is grounding, right? I'm connecting with my emotions, but then you have to experience it as a human. So allowing
Right.
the balance between those two. Thank
Beautiful.
you for the reminder of that question.
Well, we a lot of people, especially in spiritual circles, I've noticed over the years, and that is changing. I also noticed that enlightenment now is very much talked about in terms of embodying in the body and feeling the body, being grounded. While a while ago it was still a lot about, flying, somewhere in the clouds, being, connected, but you're forgetting your body temple. That's where your spirit resides. And the body is your compass, and how you feel actually will tell you a lot, right? So great that you
Mm,
mentioned that. Super, super important that you came here to express, have an experience in the body.
mm.
So really remember that, because a lot of people just, you have the feeling sometimes when you're talking to someone and they are, up in the sky, but you don't feel the connection to planet Earth. And there has to be a balance, right, for the full expression. That's how I believe. That's what I believe, at least.
Mm. And this is so true, because two things come to me as you say that. So I process through writing. So I always make notes as I go. It's quite funny. This is my
That's a good tip.
authentic
That's a good
expression.
tip. Yeah.
So two things were coming to me when you were talking about that, is the balance, like you were saying, between the spirit and then the human, but also the balance between we know that the conscious mind and the unconscious mind are not connected. And the only way that they become connected is through habit. So that's the one concept for us to remind ourselves of. And then the second thing I was thinking about was the difference between inner charisma and external charisma. And if you're just emitting one and not the other, then there's not a balance and you're not owning the room. You're not standing on the center stage of your life. Because maybe you have external charisma, which is maybe something that you have been conditioned to portray, because we were talking about that blood lineage or the environmental influence. Maybe certain cultures, for example, might have more charismatic, and again we're talking depending on the definition of charisma, right? What is that? So maybe certain cultures have different definitions of the external expression of charisma. But we also have the inner charisma, which is what you were talking about, Natalia, which is when you embody your truth and you're vibrating in a vibration of your truth, you're connected to this, to spirit, but it's grounded in. I often see this image of, like, this white light coming down from heaven through your heart, through your body into the ground, and the ground is your experience, what you've walked. So you're connecting the wisdom of your experience and the wisdom of your soul, the wisdom of source, grounding the two together. And that is when we're able to truly embody our truth and emit natural charisma, authentic charisma. But imagine balancing authentic charisma and natural charisma. And last night, I did a conference, my first live conference in 2 years in Paris. I was like, let me do a live conference. It ended up being great. But there was this guy who asked a really, really beautiful question, which was, I'm an introvert. Do I have to be loud on stage because it doesn't resonate with me? And we sat talking about it at the conference for a while. And what we spoke about was that there's a difference between introversion that comes from, your external introversion that comes from a narrative of your past, or, from your culture or in your environment, or inner introvertism, which is that embodiment of being inner. I don't need to say anything because I'm connected. I don't need to be verbose, because often people that are loud, or not everyone, but often people who are trying to show up more, are wanting to be seen more because they don't feel that connection with themselves. The more you know, the more you know you don't know. The more wise you are, the more you want to hold the space for other people.
Yeah. That just brings to mind, who said that? I don't remember. Who you are speaks so loudly that I can't hear what you're saying. It's that inner vibe that you can't quiet by no matter how many words you're gonna exude. It's like you can't really hide from your truth, or lies for that matter, in authenticity, if you will. You know what I mean?
I mean, imagine what that would look like, Natalia, for So imagine two situations. Someone walks into the room, they're exuding comfort, they're exuding confidence, charisma, but they're so loud that you can't hear anything that they're saying. Someone
Mm.
who's on, you can see this on stage as well. Some speakers are so loud, and you're like, well, actually, absolutely no idea. Here there's no connection, here there's no connection, on a soul level there's no connection. Or someone who walks into a room who is so quiet that you can hear
Present.
everything that they're saying.
Yes. That's this phenomenon of presence and oneness with your essence. Huh? Beautiful.
Phenomenal oneness, presence, and essence. Those are beautiful words. People always ask me, oh, how do I have more presence on stage? That's an presence and charisma, I think, go hand in hand.
I totally
Embody
agree.
your truth. Mm.
Beautiful. So how would you advise, or what would be your guidance, yes, for the people who are starting, on the stage of the world, however small or big it might be, and they're struggling, they don't feel response, they don't, they are lost, I mean, they want to do something, but they just don't know how to go about it. They tried many things. How would you guide them to go back to their center and be visible in a natural way?
So there are a few beautiful questions in that.
You can break
Is your
them down
question?
however you write it.
Yeah, I'm making notes of this. So, for me, everything is that balance between masculine and feminine energy. So when somebody asks me a question, I'm always like, which one must I respond with? So there's two parts to your question, which is okay. So I've heard the calling. If I'm understanding your question correctly,
Yes.
somebody said, I've heard the calling. Okay, I think I have a message, I have a story, and my soul is pushing me out there to maybe share more. I don't quite know where it is yet, or maybe I do, but I've tried and it hasn't worked. So, they've come back to that space. And I think that that's really beautiful because no matter where you are or how much experience you've had, life is about a cycle. So you'll always be returning back to your center, to, like you were saying, the compass. I love that. It's always about returning back to the compass because each experience is there to teach you more about your truth, where you are expressing from your truth or not. So no matter the first question would be, okay, so I would invite you to just be in a space of continuous curiosity. This experience is not about me showing, I often talk about showing up to improve, showing up to connect with yourself, your truth, seeing each experience as an opportunity to grow more, expand more into your authentic expression, rather than to prove existing narratives that you've always had about yourself, that, those are where the fears are keeping you stuck. So every experience is like, okay, so what is this teaching me about myself? Start with the center. Start with connecting with yourself and say, okay, what is my divine flow and how do I want to express that? What does that look like for me? And to connect with that, get some soul inspired, when you've done your meditation. For me in the morning, once I've done my meditation and I've read a little bit of Dr. Joe and I've listened to Natalia's podcast, I'm feeling all inspired and I'm like, okay, soul, what is one soul inspired action I can do today to make an impact on somebody else's life, to share my message? And your soul will begin to give you some steps. Okay, your soul will begin to give you some steps. And go out there and try, because the only way you know it's in your divine flow is by experiencing whether it's not in your divine flow. So in terms of the masculine, I would say that's the feminine. In terms of the masculine, I would definitely, you need to go out there and you need to take action. So one thing that I recommend to all the people that I work with is what we do is we actually recommend that every week you schedule yourself on a podcast or a speaking awareness opportunity. You know, every week you are showing up, because the more you show up, the more you're defining your message. The more, like at the end of this call, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, that was so good. Because sometimes when you're expressing yourself with someone in like a fireside chat or conversation, you're having a conversation in a podcast is more of a friendly energy. You're not feeling as stressed. Some divine flow comes to you and you're like, oh, that's really, really good. 1, 2, 3. That's why I wrote down those 3 points, because I thought that's really good. I'm going to write that down. So show up, commit to being consistent, because your authority is not only based on you speaking about problems that you have overcome, which comes from showing up and learning about how to overcome your fears through experience, but it also comes through consistently being visible. So what you're doing is great, Natalia. Every week this podcast comes out. You're very, very consistent. People are seeing you. It's great for, I know you've got a beautiful vision, that's the feminine, but then the masculine in terms of visibility is you're showing up all the time. And each
Yeah.
podcast, you're learning something new about yourself, about your business.
Yeah.
So there are lots of practical tips that I can give you, but I think it's definitely number one, connecting with your soul inspired steps and showing up consistently every week. Podcast, Facebook Live, start looking for speaking engagements now. Things are starting to open up. And it takes 3 months, right? You need to give yourself consistent action for 3 months before consistency starts coming in. But go out there, act and do it. Just do it.
Great. Well, yeah, it comes down to action, inspired action, and sometimes action is better than no action. Overthinking is also not really advisable. You know, a lot of people will do everything just to sit and think and create all sorts of fears, whether they are real or imaginary, and they will paralyze them. So what would your advice be to how to overcome fears, whatever they might be?
So the masculine answer would be the 3-second rule. I don't know who said it. A lot of people have said it. I don't know where it originally comes from, but give yourself 3 seconds and act. Don't wait any longer than 3 seconds. So you see something, be like, oh, okay, I'm going to do it. If there's a fear, that's the masculine, because often what happens is that our fears, you know, they come from that feeling of unfamiliarity. So that would be the masculine. But the most important in terms of the feminine is understanding where the fear comes from, because that situation is a trigger. So it's triggering like Natalia, you know all about this stuff, but a fear is that reflection of where you have disconnected with yourself. In that moment, you become scared because you've disconnected from the alignment and the authentic expression of you. And the reason you've disconnected is because that trigger comes from a moment when you disconnected and you felt it wasn't safe for you to be you in the fullest expression of you. And this is what I do with my clients, is we go back to that moment and we look at, okay, so where did that come from? And reprogramming that. Then creating a new identity, so that that new identity creates actions that then become your unconscious way of thinking. Otherwise, that if it's not that action that's going to trigger a fear, it will be another action. And in public speaking, you know, being on camera, showing up, is the biggest reflection of where you're disconnected and you're not in your divine flow. So it will keep on coming up, which is why I always say to people, it's okay, it's teaching you something. Embrace each of those reflections, but go there and look at, where did that trigger come from and how can I reprogram it? And of course, sometimes, you know, taking an action. It might not be in alignment with you, but you won't know until you've taken that action. And we're doing the very best that we know how. We're not purposely taking actions to be harmful to ourselves or anyone else, for example. We're doing the very best that we know how, if that makes sense.
Yes, and to err is human.
To err is human. Indeed. Indeed.
Well, if we don't dare, then we will never know. So it's better to just try make mistakes. Although I don't actually use the word mistake. I say, okay, there's another lesson learned, lesson learned, lesson learned. Learned a lot of lessons, and move on. Right?
Absolutely.
Great. So then the topic today is how to exude natural charisma on the center stage of your life. So if you would just tell people in 5 steps how to do it, what would be your best advice?
Number one.
Get on it, take your notebook and make notes.
The 5 steps to exuding natural charisma and standing on the center stage. Right. Number one would be defining what charisma actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Being clear, having clarity on what that is for you. Because often what we do is we like, okay, I'm going to be charismatic. This is my definition. But then we end up comparing ourselves to other people, and then we change our course. So find the center of your compass. Number one, find the center of your compass, which is bringing clarity to what that means for you. What is the future vision of that? What do you see as that? What is that divine flow for you? Then the second would be experience, right? Go out there and practice being that version of yourself that is charismatic. Show up on podcasts, show up on stages, do video notes. Some people are like, no, I don't want to do Facebook Lives. Start leaving voice notes. Start leaving video messages for people. Anything that is now showing up in a bigger way. So step number 2, show up in a bigger way and experience. And then the third is going to be reflect. Witness yourself. I like this word of witnessing, reflecting. Some people call it conscious observation. Because we sometimes, when we're in the moment, right, we're human, right? When we're in the human expression, sometimes we're in the human and we're like in the unconscious mind. But then the following morning or that night, you look back and you say to yourself, where was I in alignment? Where was I in that charisma? Where wasn't I? And if you weren't, which is step number 4, is you need to do some reprogramming. So that's what we were talking about, is looking at reprogramming. Now you acted in that way because you have been programmed based on an identity that you created because you didn't feel safe. Now remember that natural charisma, if we really look at the bottom of it, if you want my definition, emitting natural charisma is fully expressing who you are. So when you were 3, 2, 4, and you were just living in the moment, there was no narrative about what you needed to do, who you needed to do. We're just being.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's natural charisma, is being. Like you were saying, Natalia, like walking into the room, being so quiet that your energy speaks louder than your words. So looking at, why did you disconnect from that energy? What was that trigger? And begin to look at reprogramming it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fifth step is to show up in a bigger way by sharing that with other people. Contribute that. Because to stand on the center stage of your life, if you're really standing on the center stage of your life and you're divinely connected to who you know, if you're growing, you have to contribute. It's a spiritual law of infinity. You're connecting with others, they're helping you grow, you help them grow. So, in order to show up and really stand, it's contributing your growth. What did I read? You shared it on Facebook today. My growth helps other people grow. You said that, didn't you?
Might have been in one of the posts today, yeah, on Lovetarian Way.
I think so. That came to me now as, my growth helps other people's growth. So actually you're growing for you by experiencing, but actually you're growing also for other people. Because the
It
only
reminds
way
me.
to feel fulfilled. Yeah.
It reminds me of Marianne Williamson's.
Yeah.
When you shine your light, you give permission for others to shine their light, right? More or less paraphrasing from the Return to Love.
Mm-hmm.
That beautiful, who are we,
Yeah.
to be brilliant, gorgeous. Remember who I am not to be, right? I love that
Exactly. And
quote.
also to that point, by showing up as authentically you and human and making faults and being like, oh, I messed up, or oh, this is what I'm experiencing, and just showing up as authentically you, you're giving other people permission to be authentically them as well.
Absolutely. So be the light, be the most amazing person that you can be, and you will inspire just by being you. You don't have to work hard in that sense because it will come naturally if you let it. Because I mean, we have so much light, we have so much natural gifts and talents. We don't need to fake anything. We just need to let it, right? Unfold and then polish it, polish the skills. But this is minor. Authenticity will always.
Excuse me.
Oh, bless you. You do that in Poland. That means the truth was spoken.
Ah, I also heard it's a belief system was changed.
Yeah.
So the truth
Okay.
was spoken and a belief system was changed. So that's awesome. Celebrating that.
Yeah, but I mean, the gist of our discussion today is absolutely that truth and authenticity. And, not, this saying, fake it till you make it. Well, you can fake as much as you want, but then it's never going to beat the truth of who you are, no? I believe.
Or intentionally choose to act as the version of yourself that's in alignment with your soul's natural expression until it becomes an unconscious habit. Whew, wow, that's deep. Don't ask me to repeat that because I have no idea what I just said.
Well, good that we have a recording.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Rewind.
Yeah, beautiful. No, but I mean, I think we had a very nice discussion here. We're coming on to 40 minutes now. So please tell our viewers how they could work with you, how they could reach you. I have your website here for everyone to see. And I know there's also Academy's website, but on this one, they will find all the information, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm on, of course, social media on Facebook. And maybe I'd like to offer everyone a gift if that's okay, Natalia.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah. And how would they claim it?
So I would love to offer you guys, if you want a free gift, I've created an ultimate A to Z guide of powerful public speaking tips. And these are the types of things I speak about, that we were talking about is, okay, how is it that you actually exude natural charisma? How do you create rock star confidence? How do you stand on the center stage of your life? So if you want to send me a message on Facebook, my name is Connie-Lee Bennett on Facebook. Send me a message the Lovetarian way.
Lovetarian way, yeah.
The Lovetarian way. Send me a message on Facebook and I'll send you the link to download it with absolute pleasure.
That's a great idea. Thank you for that gift. Perfect. So the final words for today, Connie-Lee, Courageous Bennett. I love how you have it in your name.
Yeah, it's actually from Sidra Jaffrey. When I started my journey, spiritual journey, now almost 12 years ago, 10 years, whatever, about 10 years ago, I went to a day conference by a lady called Sidra Jaffrey, and she recommended that we put courageous in our name as a declaration of how it takes courage to be you. I can't remember what she said. And I did that, and I just never changed it back. It's like, well, it does take courage, right? To show up and fully express all of who you are. And my final words would be to everyone that now is your time. Now is your time, authentic leaders around the world, to stand on the center stage of your life. You know, Oprah was interviewed once and they said to her, so how did you create your amazing brand, Oprah? Like, what was your strategy? And she said, well, to be honest, I'm paraphrasing Oprah. Sorry, I'm paraphrasing Oprah. She said, I didn't have a strategy. You know, my brand was created by the conscious choices that I made every single day. So my final words would be, what are the conscious choices that you are making every day to show up as who you authentically are?
Yep. Conscious awareness into your life. Introduce that and then check on yourself. Be honest with yourself, right? Really, truly. I saw that great quote today that at least don't lie to yourself ever. So, all right. That is, I would, in this time where we used to, because there's a difference between what you said that, you know, connect with that future expression, highest expression of your divinity. And that's not faking. That's just, you know, having courage to connect to your highest potential. But faking, that's a different discussion, right? So you need to see, you need to imagine, visualize your highest potential. And if you can visualize and imagine it, it's already within you, because what is imagination if not just the preview of what already exists there within you, right? As
So
opposed
beautiful.
yeah, but like for me, you know, I mean, you can definitely tell the difference that some people are, you know, striving to be their best as opposed to faking and being inauthentic. I mean, it shines, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And I think we're all doing the very best that we know how. I think, and if they're
Absolutely.
listening to this podcast now, it's their maybe soul saying, okay, let's look at how you can keep regrounding. Because I think we all have moments, and I think I have moments as well, where I'm like faking it or pretending, but then I'm like, oh, okay, reminder, come back. It's about just returning to that compass as often as you can.
Maybe there we are, you know, there's a spectrum of us, right? And when we are not feeling so good, we need to just reach a little higher, you know, to that ideal version of ourselves. And so I'm not judging the word fake, but it's just, for me, it's just not authentic while striving to be better me. That's just, you know, courage and effort. You know what I mean? There's like a teeny little difference. At least that's how it sounds to me. That's how it feels to me. And anyway,
Swimming downstream instead of upstream.
yeah, exactly. And it very much connects to the topic of our discussion, because the natural charisma must be coming from the source. I mean, you can generate enthusiasm temporarily. You can, you know, change your state in a moment, but to create this lasting change, you connect to that fountain of you, right? Oh, we're getting very philosophical now.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Like powerful words to complete with. I love that.
Well, Connie, That was beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm going to put
Thank
this
you.
on IGTV as well. Maybe we'll invite you in a few months, check with you what's going on in 2022, right? We like to ask our guests to come back and touch bases and discuss different topics. And we're certainly living in a world that is really changing quite rapidly, no? So
Absolutely.
great. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you all the viewers, and please share the episode, subscribe to the channel, connect with Connie-Lee Bennett. You are Connie-Lee Courageous Bennett on Facebook. Connect with her, send her the message, the Lovetarian Way, and she will share her beautiful guide with you. And please join me next Thursday when we have one of our returning guests, actually Yogini Tanya is coming back, and we are going to be breathing for well-being, stress relief, and just feeling awesome. So thank you so much, Connie. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you all the viewers wherever you are in the world, and yeah, connect with us and share. Sharing is caring, as someone said.
Sharing is caring. Thank you so much for this amazing opportunity.
Thank you. Much love.